The reason Heated Rivalry hits differently is because it doesn't feel performative. It doesn't feel like actors pretending to want each other. It feels like two people being pulled into something intense, messy, and emotional, while somehow still looking polished and intentional. And that's the part viewers don't always realize. For something to feel that raw on screen, the set behind it has to be extremely controlled. Because behind every moment that feels too real, there were strict rules. Some were about realism, like accents and hockey training. Some were about budget and time. And some were about the very real physical realities of filming intimate scenes that most shows never openly talk about. So today we're breaking down the strict rules the Heated Rivalry cast had to follow while filming. The casting checklist, the chemistry rule, the intimacy protocols, and the privacy boundaries that shaped the entire show. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why this series feels so emotionally believable, even when it's pushing boundaries. Before we get into it, if you love behind-the-scenes secrets, cast rules, and the stuff production never wants you thinking about while you're watching, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. All right, let's get into it. You couldn't even audition unless you agreed to this. One of the strictest rules happened before filming even started. For Heated Rivalry, actors weren't just auditioning for a role. They were agreeing to a full checklist of requirements. Comfort with explicit scenes, comfort with physical closeness, comfort with emotional vulnerability, comfort with accents and skating. If someone wasn't on board with all of it, they weren't getting cast. Period. The production wasn't interested in figuring things out later. They needed leads who were fully committed from day one, because the show depends on trust as much as talent. And that leads directly to the rule that essentially decided the entire series. The chemistry was so intense, it ended casting immediately. Chemistry wasn't something the show planned to build over time. It was treated as non-negotiable. Connor Storrie, who plays Ilya Ryazanov, did chemistry reads with multiple actors auditioning for Shane. Some were fine, some were good, but nothing clicked in a way that felt undeniable. Then Hudson joined the read, and everything shifted. Connor has shared that creator Jacob Tierney texted him directly afterward asking who he thought worked best. Connor didn't hesitate. Hudson was the one. Hudson felt it too. He described Connor as having an inexplicable X factor that felt more real than he expected. And Jacob Tierney later revealed the now infamous quote Hudson said after that chemistry test. "The other guy was good, but Connor felt like he was going to pin me down." That line wasn't just funny. It told the production everything they needed to know. The intensity was there. The show could work. They had just 36 days to film the entire show. Season 1 was filmed on a tight schedule, just 36 days. Ontario had to double as Montreal, Moscow, New York, and more. Hamilton, Toronto, and Guelph carried a huge portion of the visual world. Major hockey scenes were shot at the Sleeman Center in Guelph, while iconic moments took place in places like the Pink Tunnel, rooftop locations, and a private lakefront cottage in Muskoka. The production didn't have time to waste, which is why another major rule shaped the entire visual style. The one rule that made a small budget look expensive. Cinematographer Jackson Perrell has said the crew operated under one key mindset. Nothing on screen could feel like a giveaway of the budget. Instead of wide coverage and flashy setups, they leaned into intimacy. Tighter shots, fewer angles, longer moments on faces and body language. Ironically, the limitations made the show feel more expensive and more emotional. The camera stays close, so every look and pause carries weight. That approach also helped sell the hockey side of the story. They had 2 weeks to look like pro hockey players. Connor and Hudson didn't get months to become convincing pro athletes. They had about 2 weeks of skating and hockey training before filming began. Connor has joked that before training, he could barely stay upright on skates. Suddenly, he had to move like a professional. The production used real hockey players as body doubles for intense on-ice action, but Connor and Hudson still needed to handle close-ups and character moments on the ice themselves. The rule wasn't be perfect. It was don't break the illusion. And while they were learning hockey, Connor had another challenge running at the same time. He had 6 weeks to sound convincingly Russian. Connor's Storrie had to learn Ilya's Russian accent quickly and convincingly. He worked daily with a dialect coach for roughly 6 weeks, practicing not just pronunciation, but rhythm, tone, and energy. Because an accent like that changes how you move, how you speak, and how you carry yourself in a scene. It wasn't just a technical detail, it was part of the character's identity. And while all of that physical prep was happening, the production was also laying down some of the strictest intimacy rules seen on a romance series. Why none of the intimate scenes were actually spontaneous. The intimate scenes in Heated Rivalry look spontaneous and hungry, but they weren't improvised. They were choreographed. Intimacy coordinator Chala Hunter worked closely with the actors to define boundaries, plan movements, and make sure every moment was consented to and safe. She's explained that filming intimacy is incredibly technical, even when the final result looks emotional and free. She also addresses something actors rarely talk about publicly. It's important to say that the body sometimes doesn't know the difference. We're also just human beings who are made up of muscle tissue and nerve endings. That honesty is why the rules existed, not to limit the actors, but to protect them from fear or shame over natural human responses. The tiny garment that made those scenes possible. During explicit scenes, Connor and Hudson wore sock-like intimacy garments designed to cover private areas while still allowing scenes to be filmed convincingly. Sometimes padding was added. Sometimes camera angles were adjusted. Sometimes what looks like direct contact was actually anchored just above or beside sensitive areas. That tiny barrier made a huge difference. It allowed the actors to focus on performance instead of anxiety. And it kept everything professional, even when the scenes were emotionally intense. They had to trust each other before filming even started. This is the rule that explains why the intimacy works. Connor and Hudson built genuine trust off camera. They became close friends. They joked through awkward moments. They checked in constantly. They even got matching sex cells tattoos to mark their bond. That real comfort is what allowed the scenes to feel warm instead of clinical, even though they were highly structured behind the scenes. The question the show refused to answer. As the series exploded, speculation about the actors' real lives followed. Jacob Tierney shut that down. He's been clear that asking about an actor's sexuality during casting is illegal, and demanding answers afterward is invasive. What mattered was enthusiasm, professionalism, and willingness to do the work. That boundary became part of the show's ethos. Focus on the story, not the actors' identities. The one thing the cast wasn't required to do. Despite being based on a beloved novel series, the cast wasn't required to read the books before filming. The production wanted Connor and Hudson to discover Shane and Ilya through the scripts and their performances, not through rigid expectations from the page. One actor even chose not to read the sequel until after filming to keep the experience fresh. How Ontario secretly became the entire world of the show. Hamilton, Toronto, and Guelph weren't just filming locations. They became the entire world of the show. Fans have since turned many of these spots into a superfan crawl, with certain locations even featuring show-related graffiti. That's how quickly Heated Rivalry became a cultural moment. So when you rewatch the series, remember, you're not just seeing a romance unfold. You're seeing the result of strict rules around consent, choreography, realism, and trust. And somehow, those rules made everything feel even more real. Thanks for watching. Comment your favorite character, tell me what you thought of the show, and be honest. Did learning the behind-the-scenes rules change how you watch those scenes? Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next one.